Welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotello Esquire and Evan Ginzburg. Evan, would you like to introduce our guest tonight?
Absolutely. He's my friend Nick Comando, and Nick is a podcast host, a wrestling aficionado, a wrestling historian, and we're going to talk today about unionization in wrestling, wrestling during COVID, wrestling in general, and wrestling and everything, because none of us, including Nick, are just wrestling. So why don't we start with Selena Vega? Why don't we talk about that, Nick? Because
okay.
Everybody's talking about that. And usually we don't do current events, but this is relevant because Buddy and I are always talking about unionization of wrestlers.
Yep. And as is Selena, she tweeted yesterday, I support unionization. 10 minutes after I saw the tweet, WWE released her. So it was a fun dichotomy. She basically, WWE a few months back were they sent out like a memo to their talent, basically stating that anybody that had like a Twitch channel, a Cameo profile, any of those extracurricular things that they do, not involving what they do in the ring, that supposedly WWE owns their likeness that they're using, and basically they're going to have to negotiate a cut of whatever profits that the performers make on those Twitch channels, Cameo profiles, what have you. Xavier Woods
all
has
at the same time crying that they're independent contractors.
Correct.
Anytime they want to get insurance, anytime they want to get any benefits, anytime they want to get 401ks, the WWE cries and whines that these people are independent contractors and can do anything they want and work anywhere they want, which is absolutely ridiculous.
And by the way, Nick, I just want to say, in case you don't know, Buddy is a heel manager and also a real-life lawyer. So he's the right guy to be talking about this, too.
Although I don't do union law in particular. But I will say that my great-great-uncle Jack is the one that invented the taxi medallion. Jackman is the one who created the taxi cab medallion. So union life is amazing. Built into my existence. And
my dad was 6A16, yellow cab, New York City.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Jackman made that possible.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, is that where we're headed? Are WWE wrestlers going to become unionized? Is that something that we're going to see in the next year, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years? What do you think?
I mean, I would certainly hope so. I don't understand, I don't know like what the cost would be to WWE, but I would think they would qualify for something like the Screen Actors Guild or something like that. I mean, I'm sure there's prerequisites for how often they have to be performing on television or have some sort of distribution with the media that they're a part of or something. And I would think that they would have a pretty easy case getting the wrestlers involved in something like that, where WWE doesn't even necessarily have to be the ones to, foot the bill for it.
But then the WWE jumps into that nether sphere that they've been in for 30 years, which is they say, oh, well, really, they aren't actors, they're athletes. And then
I'm sorry, buddy.
And then when they want to be regulated by the Sports Commission, they go, they're not athletes, they're actors. And so they switches, buddy. And then meanwhile, in Florida, they're considered essential employees, so they could get around the COVID screening and the COVID bans that were going on.
Super PACs.
Buddy,
and so what is a wrestler? A wrestler is like nobody else in existence. You're both an independent contractor and an employee. You're an athlete and you're an actor. You're not really on TV, but yes, you are on TV. What are you when you're a WWE employee?
Buddy, break down a 3-hour Raw. How much of it is stilted, scripted dialogue that they've memorized, just as an actor would memorize? They're playing a character. Most of them, it's not their real names. They're playing a character, okay? It's acting. And they're doing the WWE specialty of comedy that just isn't funny. So they're doing skits and bits and promos that are scripted. So of course, shouldn't they be in some kind of union for actors? McMahon disassociates himself from wrestling. They're sports entertainers. They're superstars. He cringes at the word wrestler. So you can't have it every which way. If you're the billionaire and you're profiting off the blood, sweat, and tears, and as Mike Kanellis said, the broken backs of the wrestlers.
It's a weird dichotomy because, everything that you hear about, with Vince McMahon, I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts. Jim Ross has one, Bruce Pritchard has one. I listen to a lot of podcasts where there's basically every episode is at some point, a conversation about Vince McMahon, the person and the businessman. Everything you hear about him is he wants to transcend wrestling. He wants to make it mainstream. He wants to be in the entertainment business. He wants to show wrestling as an entertainment property. What is the negative? I mean, we all know what the negative is. It's money. But again, what would the negative be to say my wrestlers are in the Screen Actors Guild? I can send Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and Undertaker and whoever else as representatives of the WWE to the Screen Actors Guild Award, to the Emmys, to the Oscars, to all of these different events that, would help grow the brand of WWE, which, let's be honest, doesn't really need much more growth. And I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to defend Vince McMahon in any way, shape, or form here. He is 100% wrong in how he approaches, 90% of his business dealings, especially when it comes to the talent. But to me, it just, from a logic perspective, it doesn't make sense that this wouldn't have happened earlier. There's, you're basically leaving yourself wide open for a politician or somebody significant who wants to make their hay and going after you. You're leaving yourself wide open to that.
But with Vince, it's the exact opposite, believe it or not. He, especially with the 4 years of Trump, has taken it so that he is the one that is in control of the politicians. It's how his wife was made, head of small business administration. And, he's been able to reverse it on itself and tell politicians how he wants wrestling to be viewed, not the other way around. The law doesn't apply to Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon applies the law the way he wants it to be applied. And there's no other businessman in the entire world who can do that.
Donald Trump.
Well, it is politicians on one specific side of the aisle, though.
Yes.
He is funding, Linda McMahon has come out in defense of Trump's idiotic voter fraud claims. And, she was part of his cabinet, yada, yada, yada. It's the Republican side of the aisle that they seem to have the foothold in. I've seen Andrew Yang. He was on Chris Jericho's podcast and on his own Twitter feed. He's talked about if Joe Biden were to win the presidency and were to make me Secretary of Labor or put me in a position where I knew who the Secretary of Labor was, I would try and, bring a lawsuit to Vince McMahon and the WWE, basically saying they're misclassifying their employees as independent contractors.
Now, continue.
No, that's fine. Based on what it appears is going to happen with the election once, the Electoral College votes and everything like that, it looks like we're going to be pretty close to that happening. I don't know what, the Senate or Congress are going to do when he wants to name guys to his cabinet and secretary of all the different departments. But, let's say Andrew Yang becomes Secretary of Labor. If that's one of the things on his to-do list, we could see, a complete revolution in the wrestling landscape in the next probably 3 or 4 years.
Now, I know that a lot of people would say, well, this only involves, a couple hundred wrestlers maximum. Why should we get so bent out of shape with this? That's a good point because it's not necessarily something that goes across the U.S., but I think we are at a particular point in the narrative where there's a lot of talk about how the way Vince treats his wrestlers is a lot like the gig economy that we have with Uber, with Lyft, with DoorDash, and people that are, basically being used as employees,
Right.
but are really truly only being given independent contractor status. Now, in California, we just had a law proposal to treat independent contractors as employees, and that was voted down significantly. So I don't know what that says about, whether we need to have a federal oversight on it, but we weren't going to get it under the Trump administration. So I think this is part of a bigger picture on whether what really makes an independent contractor, what really makes somebody an employee. That's the bigger issue.
Buddy, if you notice, I am wearing a retro Muhammad Ali shirt. Muhammad Ali was a great humanitarian. And everything we're saying can apply to boxers as well as wrestlers.
And UFC.
These guys do not end up well. Believe me, the vast majority. The Floyd Mayweathers are the exception to the rule, who did incredibly well. But the vast majority of boxers do not end up well. And, they could use the same unionization and everything else that the wrestlers have.
Meanwhile, I'm wearing my 49ers jacket, and that shows you how unionization does work for the athletes.
Well, it works for the athletes. It doesn't work for the cheerleaders and other people that work for them. I mean, the NFL's ruthless also.
Well,
but just the fact that people are paying attention all of a sudden. What I found interesting this week, I've been saying this stuff for 30 years, okay? Benefits, pensions, 401k plans, try to unionize. I've been saying this forever, before John Oliver, but much respect to John Oliver and Andrew Yang for championing this and having a much bigger forum than we do here on our show. But my point is this: some things are just wrong. It's wrong. Let me just tell you briefly, and not to drag the show down, but in the past 2 weeks, I've had 4 friends die. 4 friends died. Some of them were in the wrestling industry. Tracy Smothers has a GoFundMe. Tracy Smothers worked as a pro wrestler for decades.
What an amazing performer he was.
Amazing. Tracy was great. And I'm jaded and I'm saying Tracy was great. He was one of the most consistent guys. I never saw him have a bad match. Okay. Why does he need a GoFundMe at this stage? To bury the poor guy and whatever the case may be. Melissa Coates is a dear friend. She was at my wedding, okay? She lost her leg. There's a GoFundMe. Jimmy Rave, ROH, is trying to gather together a couple of $100 to go to his grandmother's funeral. Guy's been in the business 20 years, and this business, most people do not end up well, and it's because nobody's protecting them. Sure, the Randy Ortons and the Big Show and these guys are making big money. Again, it's the exception to the rule. And people have this weird conception, if you're on TV, you're a millionaire. There are many, many, many people in WWE making less than a New York City school teacher. I know because I was a New York City school teacher, and I know wrestling. There are guys making 80 grand. There's school teachers making 115, 120 grand. It's not big money. You could be future endeavored at any moment, including in the middle of a pandemic, like Vince ruthlessly did to his quote-unquote independent contractors. End of sermon. It's on you guys.
Well, I wanted to go back to what Buddy said regarding the gig workers. I'm actually a shopper for Instacart, and I was for a brief period a driver for Uber. The difference between being a WWE performer and an Instacart shopper, first off, from just as a testament to what Evan said, if I'm not mistaken, I had read somewhere that the starting salary in NXT was $60 grand a year. So you're spot on with that, Evan, as far as salaries go. That's definitely less than what a school teacher would make.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but the difference between being a WWE wrestler and being a gig worker, I can go a week without shopping for Instacart. I can just say, I'm taking this week off. I'm not doing it. I could decide at 5 o'clock in the evening, let me go to the app. Let's see what's going on. Oh, there's an order over here. All right, I'm going to do it. The WWE performers don't have that same luxury. They have to be at rehearsal. If they're going, they're going to be in, Boise, Idaho. They have to be at the, Idaho Potato Center at 1 p.m.
Well, that might be changing. That might be changing quite a bit as of the latest WWE announcement. Have you heard that announcement? Well, they may be doing
with house shows.
But your point is totally.
I'm talking about like a Raw or a SmackDown taping.
Right,
They're probably still going to do those live. Yeah, but like they have to be there at like 12, 1 o'clock for 6-7 hours of rehearsal. They don't, as far as I know, they can't just leave and come back when they're done rehearsing. They have to stay there the whole time. And, I think the etiquette in wrestling is if you leave before the end of the show, unless you're a big time star, that's kind of frowned upon as well. So a lot of these guys are spending 8, 9, 10 hours at a show that they might not even get a minute of TV time on, so it's a very, I know you're not saying this, but to compare it to a gig worker or kind of try to make a connection there, I feel like is not the best way to compare it. The fact of the matter is WWE classifies them as independent contractors. Now, if you look at AEW, which is the other big wrestling, promotion in town, owned by Tony Khan and his father, who own the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NFL, Jon Moxley, their current champion, has had a run in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was their United States champion for a period of time. I know of other guys that work for AEW that have performed at independent shows since they've signed there. As far as I know, and I could be wrong on this, and it could just be a COVID thing, but from what I can tell with AEW contracted performers, if they want to go and perform somewhere else, they can. And, AEW doesn't have any, issue with it. They might have the right to pull them, but they don't just hold them hostage and force them to only do AEW associated events. So that to me is the biggest thing about WWE, which is really what bothers me about them. You're saying, I'm an independent contractor with you. Okay, I want to go perform for my, the wrestling school that trained me. I want to go do one of their shows. No, you can't. You can't. Why not? Because we said so. We don't want you to. There's you're only doing an appearance and you're doing a photo op. You're not doing anything in the ring. We still don't want you to go there. Or you go there, but we're going to take 50% of what you make. It's like, I'm going to charge $30 for a photo. If I get 50 people, you guys get $75 of that? Like, that's ridiculous. So that to me is the big issue with this. They're not independent contractors. They're employees. I've also heard on podcasts as well from former employees there, from referees. If the referees were effectively double dipping, because if you worked on the ring crew, you were a employee and you got benefits. If you were just a referee, you were a contractor, you got no benefits. So a lot of the referees worked on the ring crew so they could take advantage of that loophole, get benefits, get a 401k, get all that good stuff that really everybody should have with any job, and still also be a performer in the ring and be a ref, and basically, loophole WWE into paying them, giving them what they should have as an employee. So yeah, it's just wrong to me to call them independent contractors and then hold them hostage.
I think when you look at who Vince McMahon is as a person, I think it all comes down to him wanting to control other people. I think control to him is a matter of principle, not as a matter of necessity. He has gotten to the point where he is really his own kind of dictator, where he gets off on telling people what they can and can't do. I mean, right. I've heard that the lists that they hand you now when you want to perform for the WWE on absolutely everything that you can and can't do on TV is like something like 40 pages long, of stuff that that you can't do, that Vince McMahon will be furious about if he sees you doing it, and we were talking to another wrestler who was saying that, you never really know where you stand with the WWE. Like when you walk into a room and Triple H is on the phone, Do you go up and you shake his hand? Because on the one hand, you could be interrupting his phone call, and he'll be furious that you're interrupting his phone call. On the other hand, if you don't go and shake his hand, are you big timing him?
You're disrespecting him, yeah.
And disrespecting him. And
Yeah.
there's like no way to win. You know, there are all these little traps that you can fall into when you perform for the WWE, and it's easier to mess up than it is to get Vince's favor.
Everything I've heard about working there and from people that have come out of there, everybody's just so job scared that they just do whatever they want, do whatever they think Vince, and whatever entertains Vince, that's what they run with. And it's a recipe for just some really poor storytelling and some really bad booking, because, Arn Anderson says it on his podcast, it's an audience of one. It doesn't matter if everybody's cheering for this one guy. If Vince finds this other dude entertaining by making him look like an idiot, that's what they're going to do every week, because it entertains Vince. And it's, and the other part of it too is, let's be honest here. This is how a lot of corporations would operate if they had the same ability that WWE had, where they can say, oh, well, these guys are contracted, so we're going to call them independent contractors. If McDonald's could do the same thing with the people that work in their restaurants, they would do it in a heartbeat.
That's why unions were formed.
Exactly.
To stop this sort of abuse from happening, in a corporate world. Somehow Vince has been able to get into that middle, that clouded area where he's not being defined, as an employer of these folks, even though we think they are, and all the evidence points to it. And it's I think that as Vince goes, so will so many other of these kind of cloudy businesses that are hard to define.
The other thing too that just kind of saddens me to a large degree, and I'm not blaming them for not doing it, but at some point, a significant talent has to stand up and say something. Like Jesse Ventura tried to do it in the 80s, and Hulk put the kibosh on it because, Hulk was making money, screw everybody else. But you need a Roman Reigns or a Seth Rollins or a Brock Lesnar or somebody like that to stand up and say, this is wrong, let's try to unionize. And the problem with it is, I don't know if it's necessary. I don't mean to say like problem like, it's going to really screw them over, but they'll get blackballed by WWE. WWE will figure out a way to squash it. It's very difficult today, I think, to form a union and actually get traction behind it, because a lot of WWE fans, as I'm sure Evan will testify to, they're very brainwashed. Like, people just in general are brainwashed to just hate the employee and love the employer. Like, you get mad at the McDonald's employee because they're not putting effort into their job, but you're not really yelling at McDonald's, the corporation, for paying them an adequate wage. It's like this weird, you hate the employee for whatever reason, when really at the end of the day, the big company that employs them is the person you should be mad at.
What I'm finding interesting is I sincerely feel the tide is turning, though, because years ago, anybody critical of WWE, there would be a knee-jerk reaction from the fans. He's not part of the business. He doesn't know anything. Why is he attacking, WWE? WWE's my religion. Vince is my hero. I'll tell you, though, Selena Vega is respected as a performer. She's liked as a person. And what I was reading thread after thread, where the vast majority of fans were on her side, not WWE's. And it was a really different feel to it than years ago, when I would say the vast amount of fans were pro-management. Now they're starting to see it. And sure, a top guy in WWE making $1 million a year or more, in the case of a Brock Lesnar, they may not be the guy to fight for unions, but maybe an Andrew Yang or somebody else, or a combination thereof, will. And I'm optimistic that there will be some change, because I remember a long time ago when one wrestler after another was dropping dead, and there was a trail of dead wrestlers. That bad publicity led to WWE giving free rehab and such. So public pressure and public scrutiny does result in change. It may not come from the wrestlers themselves, but a Selena Vega standing up for herself, and a Mike Kanellis, even Ryback, who, people have mixed emotions on him, but I'll tell you, he was out there defending Selena Vega post after post, tweet after tweet. So, you're starting to see the tide turning, and politically, things could be turning too with a different administration.
Absolutely.
So let's hope an Andrew Yang comes through.
Well, I think the other thing too is, like I said, it saddens me that, I'd like to see a significant performer, a Roman Reigns, somebody like that, stand up for it. And they probably won't because they're benefiting from it. So why would they kill a good thing? But, my whole thing too is WWE tends to get away with this kind of treatment of their wrestlers because we always hear about, oh, well, they put Scott Hall in rehab so many times. They put Jeff Jarrett through rehab. They put this guy through rehab. They paid for this guy's surgery. They paid for that guy's surgery. And, I think in the past, a lot of fans have kind of like, oh, well, when you're there, if you're under the umbrella, they do take care of you. And it's like, well, that's great. But the moment they're done with you, you don't get anything from that. They're not giving you, they're not releasing different collections for old wrestlers just to give them a royalty, just so they have something, just so they have a check coming in. It's only if the Hart Foundation's going into the Hall of Fame. All right, let's make a bunch of Hart Foundation stuff. The next year, all right, we're done with Hart Foundation. Let's do the Headbangers now. And it's just you get tossed aside. Every year, it's just somebody new.
And that tossed aside mentality is what I believe cost Crash Holly his life.
Yeah.
He
Absolutely.
was not a close friend of mine, but a friend of mine from APW. He had trained at APW, and I got to meet him once while he was still hardcore champion, and he was on top of the world. And I got to meet him after the WWE released him, and he was a shell of himself.
Absolutely.
He really, the rug pulling from him, from being featured like every week prominently on Raw and SmackDown, and then to just say, okay, we're done with you, and to just push him right out the door. He couldn't handle that. Now I know people say, well, that's just, he was weak and he was, but the WWE does something to you to get you to be a star. They have to. It isn't just an average person just becomes on TV every single week. It changes your mentality. It changes your thought process. And to then it's not like a giant Frankenstein switch that you just go on and then off. And when you go off, what happens to the person that has the off on them? They're off TV. What does that do to them? For Crash, it meant a lot of pills. It meant a lot of booze. Still having to deal with all the injuries that he got from being hardcore champion, which were very significant. And when you then take away the emotional payoff of being on TV, all you've got left are the pills and the booze and the injuries. And that collapses on top of you. And a lot of people emotionally can't handle that. That's why we see so many wrestlers burn out after they're done wrestling. Like a Jim Neidhart.
We've said it many times. How about an off season? Season. You have all this young talent who's squandered in WWE. Okay, why not give the stars a break? Let's say from Thanksgiving to January 2nd or whatnot, the holiday season. Let them have almost 2 months off and showcase and push the young talent that nobody sees.
NXT.
Yeah. Not just NXT. There's guys you never see. They're not even used. They're under contract. And or they're on not SmackDown or Raw, they're on the D, E, or F show. Follow my logic?
Yeah, main event. They're on main event.
Yeah, exactly. And showcase them and make stars out of some of those guys. And I'll tell you honestly, these guys, they're treated mostly like farm animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
we did the movie 350 Days. Back in the day, they wrestled 300, 320. Bret Hart 336 days. Ric Flair 350 days. Now they've been wrestling 250 days. It still takes a terrible toll on the body. These guys do not end up well physically. There's pain pill addictions, etc., so on. And give them some time off. Treat them like human beings and not farm animals.
Yeah, I remember I went and saw the premiere of 350 Days, which is a phenomenal documentary. And if you have the opportunity to, view it, please do. It's excellently done. You had Greg Valentine there as well as Tito Santana at the premiere that I attended. And, I love Greg Valentine. I think he's a fantastic talent. I love his dog collar match with Roddy Piper. But, and I don't like looking at wrestlers in this way, but he was having some trouble moving around. Greg Valentine, he wasn't that spry when he was walking,
and he's still wrestling in his 70s.
Yeah, exactly. And that shouldn't happen, and they always talk about on all the podcast stuff I listen to. Oh, well, back then if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So what else were you supposed to do? I don't know. Fight to get paid. Like, unionize, do something. It just, and I feel bad saying stuff like that because I'm blaming the talent for it when at the end of the day, it's the promoters and just the business itself that sort of bred this mentality that nope, you gotta work. Oh, you broke your leg? Put it in a splint and you'll be fine. Just make sure you make the next day. You gotta get to Tupelo tomorrow. It's not right. The business itself kind of breeds that mentality within people.
Dynamite Kid was crippled. When he lost the tag title, he got paid $25 and ultimately ended up in a wheelchair.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing too that, going back to your Crash Holly point, buddy, back when he got released, WWE had a monopoly, for lack of a better term. Where else was he going to go? I think it was early 2000s he probably got released, right?
Correct.
I don't think Ring of Honor had really a huge foothold at that point. TNA, I don't think was really doing anything all that crazy where, they were bringing guys in or anything like that. You got dumped by WWE in the early to mid 2000s, basically anytime before, AEW or when TNA was bringing everybody's dirty laundry back in. You were screwed. There wasn't a huge indie scene. Yeah, unless you went to Japan. Yeah. And then Japan would have to have interest in you. You couldn't just go to Japan. You couldn't just walk into New Japan's offices and say, give me a match. So, that's the other part of it too. The mental health part of it is really, really, really important. Just not being able to handle that and your dreams are crushed. But also just the monopoly that WWE's had basically since WCW went out of business. Where you didn't get to WWE, you were, you weren't doing anything else. You were going to maybe an APW show or out here, SWF or New York Wrestling Connection or Creative Pro. Those are the shows you're doing, and that's not to criticize those companies, but it's a step. It's it's a pitfall down. It's not even a step down. It's you're stepping off a ledge.
Well, that's why not to mention another great Evan Ginzburg production, but The Wrestler really I think showed that very thing. Where what it was like when you see Randy the Ram Johnson going through the ring curtain and it turns out to be the butcher's the door to go into the butcher shop and back into the supermarket, and that was one of the most poignant scenes. And I 100%. I pointed out to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and said this is what it really is like when you don't wrestle anymore.
I'm not going to name names, but I was friendly with the WWF headliner, main eventer all over the world. When he was done, he pushed a broom. He had a janitor's job. A lot of these guys end up working doors at nightclubs, discos, strip clubs. You're a blue-collar guy without a lot of education, for the most part. I don't want to make blanket statements, but... and you wake up one day, you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and, what are your options? So, this business has to do better for these guys. You can't just discard them. And like I said, in the past couple of weeks, I've had several friends die or end up in hospitals, and it's grim. It's just grim. Yeah.
So let's change gears for a sec. Let's talk about you, Nick. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about how you got started and what inspired you to be involved in professional wrestling?
Well, as a kid, I was into wrestling probably from like my freshman year of high school until probably a month or two after I graduated. I was born 1990, so that was like the Eddie Guerrero years when Eddie Guerrero and Benoit were on top in the early 2000s. Like,
oh my God, that's when I started law school.
Yeah, we got years on you. Yeah.
So that was like that's like my classic stuff. Like I go back, like when I watch WrestleMania 20, I'm taken back to my friend's living room, watching it live for the first time.
Eddie was great. R.I.P.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories when I was a kid. My parents never sprung for the pay-per-views, but we had like you had the pay-per-view channel back then, and if there was a show going on, it was all like jumbled and weird looking, and you couldn't really see anything, but we got the sound for some reason, like we could hear it. So No Way Out 2004, Eddie and Brock Lesnar were wrestling for the WWE title, and I stumbled upon the channel towards, like halfway through the main event. And I called my brother. It was in my parents' room. I called my brother in my parents' room. We were like listening to it. And my mom kept yelling at us to go to bed. And we heard everything. Like we heard Goldberg spear Eddie. We heard Eddie, jump on Brock, hit the frog splash, pin Lesnar, the Cow Palace going nuts after Eddie won.
It was like a radio drama.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I'm a big baseball guy. There's nothing better than listening to baseball on the radio. That's what this was like for me. I will never forget this as long as I live. It's my favorite wrestling memory. Just hearing the sound of just the crowd going nuts for Eddie, and just I just loved Eddie. I don't know, he just had charisma. He just had this amazing charisma. You just wanted to root for him. And then Benoit, the next month basically winning the Rumble and winning the world title. That moment was fantastic too, and Eddie defending it at WrestleMania. But that was like that was like when I was a big fan, and then I met a girl and, faded away, stopped watching wrestling for a while. And then about 3-4 years ago, I was out with a couple of friends and they started talking about wrestling. I said, "You guys watch wrestling?" And they were like, yeah, WWE Network. You got to get it. It's like $10 a month, blah, blah, blah. So I got it. And it was right around when Goldberg had come back to wrestle Lesnar at Survivor Series. And like he beat him again in like a minute and a half. And I watched that match and it was a wrap. I was hooked. I was like, oh, this is great. So I went and I watched every WrestleMania from the first one till, the most recent one at the time. Because I had only seen like WrestleMania 20, 21, 20, and 22 maybe. I don't remember 23 or 24.
Evan, how old do you feel now?
I could be his dad.
I was at WrestleMania
sorry.
too. Yeah. I was at WrestleMania too.
Wait, at the Coliseum?
Yeah, at the Coliseum.
Yeah, that was a great show.
You're saying, well, my first one was 20. And
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, I'm young. I apologize.
Really defines.
But I just went back and I watched I'd never seen really any of the old stuff. I had never seen The Rock or Stone Cold wrestle like in their heyday.
Wow.
I didn't know Hulk Hogan, aside from being a racist. I didn't know that he had gear that wasn't the tights, like the long, like what he wore in WCW.
You didn't know the red and yellow.
No, I didn't know.
Wow.
And I didn't know his music. I
didn't
know what his music was.
You never saw him rip open a Hulkamania shirt.
I had never seen him do that. And
they used to sell shirts with Velcro on the back. You could pull
rip it off, right?
Yourself.
Yeah. I had never seen that, and I just fell in love and more into it, and I started listening to podcasts and then watching the shows they were going to talk about on the podcast, so I had context. And it's one of those things. Like, it was always there. Like, I love obviously being entertained, but just the storytelling in wrestling and everything that they do today and back then, it's just, I don't know, I've kind of fallen off a little bit with WWE as of recently, but I still try to watch it as regularly as I can. I usually drop in for pay-per-views.
That's interesting to me because a lot of times when one of you kids, now I really am feeling old, one of you kids watch the older wrestling, a lot of the feedback that I get is, it's so slow. And there's, they mostly punch and kick. And there's a lot of rest holds. And where are the high spots? And so on and so forth. So it's interesting to see you have an appreciation for it. What is it about the older wrestling that you find?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a Young Bucks guy at all. Like, I don't get them. Like, I watch their matches.
Guys. I've met them.
I'm sure they are. Like, they're like when they cut promos and stuff, they're funny, they're entertaining. But when they wrestle, it just doesn't do it. Like, to me, doing 50 million flips isn't storytelling. It's not, like watching Hulk Hogan wrestle Andre the Giant, and is he going to get him off his feet? Is he going to be able to slam him? How is he going to do this? Andre's this big 7'5", 800-pound monster, all the cliches. How is he going to beat him? And, Hulk Hogan wasn't exactly, Bret Hart in the ring, but, he told a story.
What's ironic is I'm an old school jaded fan.
Yeah.
And I love the Young Bucks, and I would watch the Young Bucks with the Lucha Brothers before I'd watch a Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant match.
And that's fine. There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't begrudge people for this is the thing about wrestling. It's like wrestling fans today. It's like, if you don't like that guy that they like, you may as well have leprosy. Like,
exactly.
Like, love the Young Bucks, enjoy them. I'll watch their matches. I'm just not going to sit there and do the Dave Meltzer thing and give them 50 million stars. It's just, it's okay, it's great, but I'd like a little bit more storytelling, a little bit more of a grounded, mat wrestling type game. Like, they had a match against the FTR at their last pay-per-view, Full Gear. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was, I think Meltzer gave it 5.25 stars. It didn't really do anything for me. I was like, all right, it was a good tag match. Great.
I tell people all the time that wrestling is an art form.
Yeah.
Abdullah the Butcher or the original Sheik stabbing somebody in the head is done artfully to me. Somebody else might find it repulsive.
Absolutely.
Billy Robinson going hold for hold, or Carl Gotch going hold for hold, or Lou Thez, somebody might find that dull. I find it artful. But there's enough variations on a theme that on a quality show by a major promotion, somebody will find something to enjoy. I don't even like WWE for the most part. On any given pay-per-view, there'll be 2 or 3 matches I enjoy of the 17. But 2 or 3 matches, I'll say, wow, this is really worth seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife can't stand wrestling, but she likes Charlotte Flair. She likes Becky Lynch.
Well, they're both good athletes.
If they're on screen, she's engaged. She'll watch it. She'll watch them wrestle. Yeah. You put on Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or any of the matinee darling looking guys, she couldn't care less. So
I'm the same way. I'm the same way with most of the women wrestlers, but Charlotte and Becky and Asuka, they could really wrestle. Gail Kim. And, I don't care how pretty they are. That's not why I watch wrestling. I watch wrestling to see a great match.
Absolutely.
So, I find most of the women wrestlers interchangeable for the most part. But there's a half dozen. What's that?
Because they are. Vince still has a type. You could have as many diverse-looking women in there. Vince still wants blonde-haired, blue eyes, specific figure, all that stuff. Yeah, he that's what he likes. And the whole women's revolution thing did not come from Vince. That was other people convincing him or talking him into it being a good idea. That's what that was.
And tell us about your
Sarah Del Rey.
I'm sorry?
Including my friend Sarah Del Rey.
She's great.
Yeah.
Who is the women's talent coordinator there for the WWE. And
she does a phenomenal job.
I trained with her.
Yeah, I trained with her at APW. She learned how to slap people, based on my face and her hand. And she would often miss and clock me right in the ear or right in the nose. Or when doing the low blow, she would should miss and hit me right square, in the package.
Oh,
yeah, you never want to work with a valet when they're just starting, just trying to figure out how to do the moves, because you'll pay the price. I would definitely come out of those sessions like hobbling and just going, I think I need to take a long shower, and I need, about a tub of liniment to get through this. But did you ever get involved in any wrestling federations in your area?
No, it's like a half of a quarter of a dream of mine to like do a little bit of training and something like that. But it's expensive, and there's other, physically I'd need to get into shape, and that's a whole other problem. But I'm part of a Knights of Columbus Council in Limbrook. We've worked with Kurt Hawk, Brian Myers' promotion, Creative Pro Wrestling. We've run shows there. His wrestlers do a phenomenal job. They've got some guys there that are, they're on the come up, and they're gonna be big one day. They're gonna be real big one day. And but yeah, I've done I've done a little bit of promoting, if you want to even call it that. But yeah, I just it's the art form to me is just so much fun, and it's such an underrated art form, because it's like Evan was saying, you could put on a show with somebody who's never watched it before. They're going to find something they enjoy. I have a friend who had never watched it before. I showed him King of the Ring 98, Mankind and Undertaker, and he was like, I want to see more of that. And I said, all right, well, let me show you ECW. I showed him ECW. Let's see more of that. So, wrestling is like a microcosm of just entertainment in general. There's always something in there that somebody's going to enjoy.
Yeah, when I looked at ECW, I appreciated Dean Malenko versus Eddie Guerrero and the Luchadors far more than the guy going through the fourth flaming table. I got bored with that stuff after
ECW doesn't get credit for stuff like that. Like their pay-per-views were a little bit of everything. It wasn't just blood and guts. Like Paul Heyman understood, like I can't have 5 guys. I can't have 5 straight matches with blood. I got to have stuff that breaks that up. And they really don't get credit for that.
Yeah, the Luchadors were great, and they had some great scientific matches.
Absolutely.
So, Nick, tell us about your show.
Well, this Command the Mic, it's a little bit of everything. Like I was saying before with wrestling, it's a little bit of everything. Got some episodes up about just politics in general, some wrestling, and I'll be working on some more stuff in the coming months. Probably put up another political episode to discuss the election and how much agita it's caused me, and all that stuff. I'm happy with who's projected to win, but still the whole getting there is what's stressful. And just I'm on social media, Twitter, Instagram, at Nick Comando, 1M in my last name, 1M in Command the Mic.
How come it's not Commander Nick? yeah.
I prefer Command, or I prefer Command the Mic rather than Commander Nick. So yeah.
So what sort of guests have you had on your show?
I've had a friend of Evan's, Randy Younger. I've had him on for a couple episodes where we've reviewed. We did a couple reviews of Dark Side of the Ring. Randy's not that familiar with wrestling, so I had him watch the New Jack episode, which I think might have traumatized him. I'm not sure. Yeah. I've had Randy Younger on, and used a couple friends of mine. My friend Justin Miles has been on a few episodes, but that's really it. And hopefully at some point we'll have Evan on and discuss, wrestling and all that jazz as well.
Yeah, I'm always available to talk.
Oh yeah, sorry, buddy. Of course, if you're
a crap load of politics,
I'd love to have you on.
I'm more than I was a poli-sci major. So
oh boy.
I could easily be part of a political roundtable if you ever interested in having the West Coast represented in something like that. But
I love it. Thank you.
If you could get a guest on your show, who would you want to have?
Oh boy.
Living or dead? How about that? I'll even put it in those terms.
It wouldn't go anywhere, but I would love Vince McMahon just so I could like grill him on all this stuff. I know it wouldn't get me anywhere, and he'd probably like cut off the interview. But man, it would be fun to just like turn the screws to him and be like, "Come on, dude, You know this is wrong. You know,
Yeah.
we both know that you don't care about anything but money. But let's just pretend money was a person. Why would you be killing money? I just,
Wow.
I don't know. It's just something.
That's a hell of a question. That's a hell of a question.
Because, like I said before, all the podcasts I listen to, things like that. It's not that, and I'm not trying to humanize Vince or anything like that, but it does. They always seem to convey that he does have some sort of moral dilemma in his head with certain things. You know, like I think the Owen Hart thing weighs on him very heavily. You know, things along those lines. I think he does feel partially responsible when talent dies under his watch or because of things he advised them to do. I think he does feel responsibility to it, but I think he's also so damaged as a person that he doesn't know what to do with it, so he just pushes it down. You know, and again, I'm not trying to humanize him, I'm not trying to defend him. You know, if you didn't know who Vince McMahon was and we just showed you things that happened while he was running WWE, you'd probably say, how is this man not arrested for murder by now? So I'm not trying to defend him in any way, but, you know, at the same time, he is a person, he is complicated, he is clearly damaged. That has to be pointed out too, I guess. I don't know.
Well, my question as far as Owen, and I was actually watching that show live, what if Shane had leaped off of some large object as he often does? What if it was Shane? Would you just go next match, keep it going? You know,
it's so inadvisable to just continue the show. Like it's just not the right thing to do.
It's carny. But it is really the carny code. When you boil it all the way down to that circus mentality, you know. The lion tamer gets mauled by the lion, but you still do the show. You know, the human cannonball misses the net, but you still do the show. The acrobat, the safety net doesn't hold the trapeze artist and they fall. You still do the show. And it goes down to that true, like, carny promoter, ringmaster mentality that no matter what happens, you've got to do the show. And I think when it boils down to it, that's what Vince really is. He's like that circus master, you know, the ringmaster that stands in the middle of the ring and will just keep pushing the show no matter what, even if a tent falls on him. Yeah, he's going to keep doing the show.
It's just, you know, I read Martha Hart's book. I watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode about Owen Hart's death, and just the fact that he was able to settle on that with her is just so wrong to me. Like, there should be certain situations where you have to go to court and you have to, like, just legally get undressed, because the clip that they used with Owen, it's a wonder it didn't fall off the moment they put it on him, let alone when he was hanging there. It was such a flimsy clip that just, and all because Vince didn't like how it looked when he came down and had to take the other, like, of all the things that
allegedly,
you really think somebody's sitting there and going, oh, you know, it's Blue Blazer's taking an awful long time getting that clip off his back. I think they should use a different harness. Like, the things that, and this I guess is in general, the things that people worry about, you know, when you're at that level, just amazes me. That's something that would go, oh, well, he looks clumsy taking the clip. Who cares? He's supposed to be a superhero. Like, he's wearing a mask and a cape, and he looks ridiculous, and you're worried about how long it takes him to take a clip off. And I feel like you guys are trying to end the show, and I'm sorry for continuing to ramble.
No, we're not trying to end the show, but
all right,
I did have one final question as we're running up against the hour here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the future of wrestling and where is it headed right now with the COVID situation, and how do you think it's going to wind up, you know, getting out of this, or is this the way it's going to be now for a long time?
I think AEW is doing a much better job just in general with COVID than WWE has at all. You know, in the beginning, AEW was putting out more of their lower level talent on the side of the ring, with a safe distance, and they were letting them just act like fans. They were letting them, like they knew they knew who the bad guys, the good guys were. They were letting them do what they wanted to do. You still had that element of a crowd there, albeit a small one. And then they started opening it up to fans, and from everything that I've seen, they seem to be doing that well. I haven't heard about any outbreaks or spreader events from an AEW show. And WWE was doing the corporate thing where they bring in their NXT talent who haven't been on TV yet, and they're making them dress up as fans, and they're, you gotta, this is how you're supposed to cheer, and this is how you're supposed to clap, and, like, instead of just being like they're intelligent human beings who know what they're doing, they're telling them how to be fans, and that just, it just feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
So, I also think at some point, whether it's because of a vaccine or something else or a herd immunity, whatever, I do think COVID's going to end at some point. Not that it's going to go away, but I do think things are going to open up again, and there's going to be, hopefully a vaccine is what does it. But I think wrestling will survive. I just think it's going to be different. I don't think WWE is going to run house shows, because A, I don't really think they need to. And B, to them it's going to be a sunk cost, regardless of the benefits it has for the talent. And I think the future of wrestling is pretty bright. And if they can, the only thing that I think might affect it is if the unionization occurs, which I hope it does. But WWE is certainly a company that's not going to take too well to that. And I'd love to see I'd love to be reading in the next 2 years about CBA negotiations between wrestlers and WWE, or wrestlers and AEW. I think that would be fantastic. Your idea of an off-season, Evan, I think would be great. I think you could start. I think if you started wrestling at like the Royal Rumble, and then like looped around to the WrestleMania or something like that, I think that would be a fantastic way to do it, and give like. Honestly, to me, the 2 months between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, pay-per-view wise, are like the 2 worst months. Because we all know that the champion's not going to lose the title until WrestleMania, and that one guy that you want to win is not going to win it until WrestleMania. So, like, honestly, establish all your feuds at the Royal Rumble, end it with your Rumble winners, and then just do stuff on social media. Or do like a desk show, do like a Tuesday Night Titans or something with, Corey Graves and Michael Cole, and have them promote it like once a month or something like that. And then WrestleMania, boom, that's your opening night. You've had 2 months off for the talent, and then you just go to the following Rumble and rinse and repeat.
Wow.
I think that would be a great
input.
idea.
That's some great input. Can you let our viewers know how they can check out your podcast and how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Nick Comando, NickComando. I am not the Schwarzenegger movie. I never will be. 1M, not 2. And you can listen to Command the Mic on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. And again, it's COMAND. No, not 2 M's, 1M because of my last name. And it's, the last episode's from like right before the pandemic started. So the next thing you'll get is going to be a pandemic broken host.
Very good. Well, you've been an excellent guest this week.
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciate having you on the show this week. And we'd love to have you again in the future, especially if you've got a big project coming up or anything you want to promote. And
thank you.
Evan, you have any final words you'd like to tell our guest?
Yeah, I want to just thank Nick for really helping us tonight, and we put a lot out there from the heart. Some of the wrestlers are among my dearest friends, and I just want to quickly say one more time. Please contribute to Melissa Coates' GoFundMe, Tracy Smothers. Jimmy Rave is selling merchandise. He wants to get to his grandmother's funeral on Tuesday, so don't put it off, folks. Buy a T-shirt or an 8x10 or whatever the case may be. Jimmy Rave, formerly of ROH. And Lucha Mike just passed, my buddy. And his widow is selling all kinds of great lucha merchandise. at Nuclear Jackalope. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Nuclear, JACKALOPE.com. And, buy something and support the cause there. And, the wrestling community is a community. It's a community. And I find all the time the same people give, the same people help, the same people promote. And other people, they wouldn't move their wrist to share something. So It is what it is. And I'm just putting that out there. These are people who are or were worthy of your help, who devoted their lives to pro wrestling. And, support them. And we're here every Saturday with Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast. And we specialize in 1 hour interviews with the unsung heroes of pro wrestling. And,
you included, Nick.
There you go.
Thank you.
And we don't give two craps about the latest Raw or SmackDown. We don't spend 30 minutes overanalyzing it. We try to shoot higher. So check out the show, folks. And that's about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. You gave us some great insight. Looking forward to listening to your podcast. If you ever need two hacks to give you some political stuff, we're here to help.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show, and you guys are phenomenal. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Thank you for being here.
Ali.